What is up? We are back working on our Worldle clone called Worldle with a U because we're fancy like that. Right, where we left off yesterday was we have our project and built with Remix. We got our layout looking a lot better than it was when we started. And yesterday what we did was we added some semantic HTML so that this grid actually makes more sense. So it's a list of words, so we're using unordered list here, and each list item is a word. And right now we're using a bunch of divs for placeholders, but when we add letters, like we say, if we say heart, then we can see that the letters that we're looking at are actually spans, and they spell out the word, H-A-R-T. So that's in hopes of making this a little bit more accessible to assistive technology users. The other thing that we got yesterday was if we put in a word that doesn't exist and we submit it, we're getting a message that says, hey, that's not a word. So we're doing a little bit of validation on the back end, which we're doing with Remix during that action. And if we reload now, we'll see that that message is gone. We're accomplishing that with the Remix flashes. I forget what they're called, a session flash. So the session that sets up the flash message is going to be just shown the first time it's the first time we reload, and then after every other reload that flashed message is hidden. The other things that we get is let's see, I'm gonna put in some other words. Poops, 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 poops. And oh, what happened there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have had one more guess to make, so we've got a little bit of logic issues there. But you can see that we have some logic around if you lose, and we're doing that. We're doing that on the front end, I believe. So has one, if remaining guesses, I guess if remaining guesses is greater than or equal to 0, let's reload that page. No? There we go. Right, so I should have one more guess to make, and if I say my final guess is poops, now I should have that error message showing up, which I am not seeing. And I also shouldn't see this row. So let's get into fixing that. Looks like just a little bit of logic change. Success message is also something we are not using, because we'll get that later, so we can get rid of this success message. We're not using it. That our types we're going to want to clean up at some point. Okay, so the remaining guesses we have that logic is fine, and then our has more guesses logic. If you don't have any more guesses, all right, this logic is not quite correct. It should be if remaining guesses length is greater than 0, then you should have more guesses. As one, and if you just got it right, You don't need to make any more guesses. So I think I have some. I think it's just an error on the back end, maybe. Okay, let's start over. Let's go to the application. Let's clear out our cookies. Let's reload the page, and we get a fresh board. And if I say, oh, this is annoying. I don't want to do this. I want to start with a completely, I don't want to start with a completely empty slate. Let's say, probably shouldn't be saying poops. Let's say puppy, right? And we're going to start with 5 guesses in place. Let's say 4 guesses in place. So we're just not learning from our mistakes. We've guessed puppy 4 times. For some reason, that is not assigning that on the front end. I should be getting that from the front end. My previous guesses. Why is my previous guesses nothing? Probably because it was already set. So let's clear that out one more time. Reload, and now there we go. Got all my puppies. That's the thing with cookies. So let's try this one more time. We're going to say hello, and then that's where my logic fails. Cool. So that's what I want to check. Reload that. We've got our puppies, and we need to go to our root and say if the previous guesses no, that's just responsible for pushing the previous guesses, so that should be fine. Success message we're not even using, so we don't need to worry about that. Which means we don't need to worry about the word of the day, which means we don't need this. Okay, let's see if I get the word of the day. What was the word of the day? I don't even know. I guess we built it so that we don't know anymore. I could probably look it up. Croak should be the word of the day. Cool. So let's look up croak. Got it right. You nailed it. Nice. Come back tomorrow. I should have another row here. So that's a problem with my logic up here. Don't need to log that. Remaining guesses. I might be wrong there. Could it be that remaining guesses needs to be 6 minus the previous guess's length? Okay, if I got it right, that makes sense. Okay, let's try this. Clear that out, reload, and now we've got an extra thing. That's what I don't like. I don't like that. No, that should be 5. And remaining guesses greater than 1. I think that's might be the right logic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let me think about this. We've got our previous guesses. I think it just makes sense to combine the remaining guesses with this has more guesses because they're basically the same thing. First of all, they should not be divs anymore. They should be spans. Class name can be copied. They're all going to be unknown letters. And then yeah, I think we can do this. I think we can get rid of this guy. What are you complaining about? Just that? Cool. Okay, definitely have not lost. So what's going on there is this logic got changed, so we don't need to change that. Length can go back up to 6, I think, but that's going to mess some things up as well. Maybe. Okay, now we're duplicating things. Right. Because we only want to do that on the first one. I'm going to say index equals. No, this is row index, and that should be letter index. If the row index equals 1, okay, that is some interesting logic I've got there, but basically saying cool. Yeah, and then what was it? Choke? Okay. We've fixed our logic a bit here. So now the previous guesses and the remaining guesses are basically more or less the same markup. Get back to refactoring this because there is some logic in there that's going to be a little bit different. But otherwise, pretty happy with that. That cleaned it up, and then we can only guess if we haven't already won. And what if we've lost? If we've lost, we can type stuff, but there's nothing to see when we type anyway. And if I reload and type a bunch of stuff and hit enter, it does send the form. So if we have not won and we've not lost, I guess if we have more guesses, then that's when we want to show form. If has more guesses. Show the form. Cool. Right now I don't have any more guesses. I can send a bunch of words, and the form should not exist. If we look at our code, we can see, in fact, that we have the list and no form after it. Cool, cool, cool. It's working. And let's get back to not having puppies everywhere. I mean, I love puppies, but 4 puppies, that would be a bit much. We got to clear out our guesses. We can reload. We have no guesses. We can say, there's our first guess. There's our second guess. All right. So now what we are going to want to build is probably the keyboard, because the keyboard is a pretty important element as it shows us what letters we've used before. We can maybe even set it up so that we prevent using previously used letters, although I don't think that's how Worldle actually works. So let's just get the keyboard working, right? Let's go with, I want to set up some data. Guesses I don't think I need anymore, so let's delete that. Delete permanently. Is it referenced anywhere? I don't think so. Cool. Post, session, and words. Sessions we are using. Words we are using. Post we're no longer using because that was from the original tutorial. And this route we're no longer using, but we can leave it. So I want to create a file called letters.js, and it's going to export default. I think I'm going to do maybe an array with all those letters. So each of the rows, and that might work. So then I can just loop over each one. And then in my index file, I'm going to import letters from letters. And then, woo, we got a lot of refactoring we're going to want to do eventually. Okay, so let's get down to this keyboard, right? I'm going to place it down here. So that maybe we just start with pre-tag, and we say json.stringify the letters, and do this guy so that it looks nice and pretty. Make sure we're getting what we expect. I'm not seeing any letters. I'm seeing letters. Okay, cool. We've got our thing. Now we can say, what element would I want to do for my letters, my keyboard? I feel like that could be a section, but I'm going to start with just a div, of course. And then we'll say, let's see, what should these letters be? It's definitely going to be a flex thing. Should it be list items? Sure. UL. Inside of which there's li. And then we'll say class equals flex and cap of 4. And then this li, we're going to have arrays and React are so annoying. Okay, I think I need one more parentheses. So length of 5. This is actually going to be the first row of the letters. So dot length. So all the letters get the first row of the keyboard and then map over that, and we should have the letter and the letter should be fine. We're not going to have repeats. So that means the key can be the letter, and then the content can be the letter. And let's see how this looks. We're not getting the content. Oh, that's because it's not that. It's not the letter. It's I'm doing this the hard way. We can just do letters at 0 dot split dot map. Cool. That should give me the letters. Not quite. That's because I didn't pass the right split argument. That should give me the letters. There you go. QWERTY wheel. QWERTY wheel. Now then, let's get some styling in place. We've got our grid stuff. I also, right after all the grid stuff, I'm going to put all the flex stuff. It's going to be display of flex. Cool. I want to have my list style type. Why doesn't this have a list style type? I bet it does. No, not you. I bet you do. If I do padding 20 pixels, no? Where's your list style type? List style type, disk. Right, why don't I see it? Where's your disk? Margin. This is confusing. This is vexing. Where is your list style type, bro? Okay. Okay, so what is changing that? Setting you to display grid. What is going on? Where's the list style type? Is still disk. Why can't I see the disk on this list, but I see the disk on this list? No comprendo. I have removed all of the stylings. I have removed all of the stylings. with the exception, maybe it's because this is a different display. Ah, is that it? Is that the list item is set to display? Whoa, okay, that's interesting. Okay. This is very interesting. Setting a list item to display grid removes removes the disk style type. I wonder if that's a bug. Anyway, that's interesting. I spent a whole little while digging into that for some reason. Cool. We may also set those to display grid, but not right now. What do I want? I want to give it a background color of background gray. Sure, let's start there. Let's see. Don't think I'm going to need that for a while. Let's go here. Class is background. Background gray. And then I think these are actually going to be buttons. So this guy is going to be wrapped in a button. And let's see here, what's the next thing? We probably want some padding on here. So padding, let me play around with these. You guys. Padding of 1 rem. That might be all right. Actually, I don't think I want that. I want to set it to display grid. And then place the contents center. That's going to get me my little thing that we've been working on. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Why do they have a border? I have no idea. Why does this have a border? Because it's a button. Yeah, of course. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I actually don't want the. That might be all right. The styles that I actually want are probably going to be on the button. Yeah, the other thing is this is totally accepting class. Does JSX work with class now? Okay, I'm down. I better stick with class name just in case. Class name, right. We've got that. We've got our thing kind of working as we intended. We're sticking to our buttons. And we want this list item. I think we want this to let's see, justify center. I wonder if I can do that through here. If that's no, it's not inherited. Okay. All right. So what am I doing? Well, let's get the whole keyboard laid out. Let's do another array. Letters dot That's not what I want. Ah. Okay. Going to loop over all of the letters, groups of letters, and then the group is going to be split. Group is an array. Why is that complaining? Prefer can. Oh, that's a dumb one. The index we can copy and put that as the key. Okay, I don't think we need to show that off anymore. And that should now be looping over my 3 lists of things. Cool. We have the padding on these is, well, the margin on these and the padding is not what I want. So gap 4, we're going to say let's see, margin, that doesn't really matter, but the padding 0. And then this guy, I think I'm going to make a class name. It's going to be its own grid with a gap of 4. So that should have a 1-column grid that lays everything out. Yeah. And then these should still have some margin. Cool. So I want to get rid of that margin. Margin 0, padding 0. I'm going to copy that. I like to put that. Oh, margin is up here. Oh, I'm just not being consistent here, am I? I'll change this everywhere. Say padding 0, and that's going to be padding 0, and then padding 4. Nice and explicit names. Cool. And then the last one is margin of 0. It's going to be margin of 0. Okay, all things said and done. That should take a moment. We have n-0 class that we need to get rid of and replace with margin 0. That should reflect in a moment. Cool, our board is being built. So now if I do this, place content center, that works. I don't think that actually matters. Yeah, okay, that will matter. The grid is going to be justify center, and the flex is going to be justify center. And do I have a justify content? We have place content. We also want justify content. Cool. Our keyboard is looking pretty good. Now our buttons need some more padding. So the question here becomes, since we're not relying on the grid or the flex container here to decide the size of the elements inside, it's up to the elements within to decide their own sizing. And here's where things get a little weird, because as we work with letters, text doesn't behave the way you would necessarily want it to, in that the width and the height can be affected, and it's not necessarily the width and the height of the letters or the characters themselves, but the line height as well. So I think what I might want to do is at this parent component, set a line height of 0. No, that's not going to work. Okay, so it's not going to inherit. A line height of 1. I basically want all of these letters to be the same width and height, so does the line height matter? Okay, it looks like we have a square there. We don't. What is up, Omri? Web Dev Journey. How you doing? It's looking pretty good, huh? Not bad. We've got our keyboard coming in place. We've got our guesses working. Now I'm just trying to figure out how to consistently style all of these buttons. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to do that. So what I'm working with is the width and height of the buttons. I kind of want them to be square, all the same. So I think what I'm going to reach for is relative units based on the font size. So if we take this letter I as a good example, because I is really skinny but equally tall to all the other letters. And the things that we have to account for are the width and the height and the line height. So if I say width of 1em, height of 1em, line height 1em, or is that going to be different than just 1? Doesn't look like that. Is 2, 0. Okay, line height of 0 might work. So then another question is, what happens when I get these letters that have descenders? Let's say line height of 0, width of 1em, height of 1em. It's going to go under anyway. But I think that's probably all right, because we are going to make it larger than that anyway. So let's say like a width and height of 2em, right? That looks all right. Maybe 3em is probably going to be too much. So let's tone it down. I feel pretty good about that. 2.5 ems at 16 pixels is probably all right. The line height doesn't seem to matter at that point. So let's do that. This is a very unique sizing. So I'm going to keep this on a unique class, which means that this is going to be the keyboard key. Okay, unknown letter, and then we've got the keyboard key is a width of, what was it, 2.5 m, and a height, and we want to stick with logical properties. So all of the width, oops, oh, I guess that's fine. All of the widths in my app, I want to actually change to inline size. And all of the height is just this one. I mean, for the visibly hidden, it probably doesn't matter at all, but we'll do what we can to be progressive. Width and height is that. And oh, that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. Yeah. That's looking good. Okay, let's go back to our code. We have a unnecessary padding thing that we had here. The button, I was thinking we might need to set to display grid, but it looks like it's already, the content is going to be centered within a button anyway. Yeah, it's going to be what? Text align center, something like that. So I think that's fine. Now, what's the next step? We want to show the letters that we have used and make them like a dark gray. So first off, let me find the gray that I want. With the HTML colors, this, ooh, that's not what I want. Shades of yellow. Okay, shades of, no, that's not what I want either. I just bookmarked it, what the heck? Give me 1 second. Design, colors, all the way at the bottom. CSS color names. All right, we're going to our other resource, Quackit, for CSS color names. We want a dark gray. So dim gray is looking pretty good. I think I'm gonna stick with dim gray. So we're working then with dim gray and what's our other gray? I thought it was slate gray, but that doesn't look right. Oh, am I using dim gray already? Oh, I am using dim gray. No bueno. Scotty Blue, what's going on? What accessibility features am I adding? Cool, yeah, I think this is the first time on the show, right? So some of the accessibility features that we're adding, part of it focuses on some markup. So we're trying to stick with things like listing the list of words as an unordered list, inside of which each word is a list item, inside which each letter is a span, so that it should be interpreted by an assistive technology as being, a word instead of just a bunch of letters in a row. The other thing we did was we have a visually hidden form, and inside of that form we have this input that gets the sort of autofocus. So you don't see it as a visual user, but as a user using assistive technology, when you reload, that input is actually going to gain focus. So let's actually take this. Let's take that off so we can see what we're working with. So let's look at that form. Just change that. That's going to reload in a moment. There it is. So as you can see, when I load the page, I have this form input already highlighted, so I can see that I can tab on and off of it, which I think is probably the appropriate choice for a tool like this. Autofocus is something you want to be very, you want to use very sparingly, because most websites, their main focus isn't to just start typing into a form, but something like Google is, for example, or Worldle, for example, the user experience is you get there, and as soon as you get there, you can start typing and putting in your guess. So like, let's say helps, right? Helps. So as you type, it updates the Worldle thing. Now, the next thing that I want for accessibility is I want to build out this keyboard in a way that shows us visual users what things we've typed already. And as this updates, I want to basically lighten and darken the keys that we've used. Speaking of which, let me find the color I'm going to use. I'm going to use. I want to keep dim gray as that other one. Let's find something else. I'm going to use red. I'll use a red to show that it's already been used. So maroon is calling me. Right, so what we're going to do is basically I want to show visual users using this keyboard which letters have already been guessed, and then I think I'm going to have some other live region that maybe speaks to screen readers to say which letters have been used or what the state of the board is. Fortunately, this one's kind of tough with the whole letters thing, but we'll see. And right now what I'm doing is making this keyboard, they're all buttons, so they're all going to be keyboard accessible. Still not sure if that's the right approach, but we're building as we go. I've rewritten some things several times already, so we're just having fun. Did that answer your question? Let me know. I'm gonna keep going. Where was I? I want to add red to the letters that we've used. Okay, let's say I want to create some background colors for background red. I'm gonna say background, not green. What am I doing? Red is background color. I want my red to actually be maroon, not red. I like maroon better. You have other questions? But you're in a game right now. Okay, well, hit me up with some questions as you get them. I'm going to be here for 12 more minutes or so. No rush. I'll be back on tomorrow as well at 3. So bring your questions then. Okay, coloring the letters that we've guessed. So this is kind of, I think this is going to be somewhat easy because we can basically loop over all of our guesses and then check if or loop over the letters and then check if the words contain the letter that we're looking at. Let's see how that might look. What I'm thinking is this map, this is probably not logic that we want to do within our template here. This is probably something we want to build a new array up top that has the state of the letter. But for the time being, let's just do it the chunky way and see what we've got. So we go through the 3 rows of the keyboard, and then for each group of letters, we are checking. We're adding the letter. So this logic here is going to say, hey, if this letter exist in any of the previous guesses. Which again, the template is not going to be pretty, but let's see if I can get that just so the logic is together. So what do I need to do? I need to go over previous guesses, not remaining guesses, right? I need to go over previous guesses. This may require a reduce. So previous guesses dot reduce Can you assign variables in here? Let's a equal, no, I don't think so. Okay, well, let's build it. Right, so we actually, nope, what am I doing? It's a function. In the body of the function, we're going to return that. Okay. And then our reducer is not written correctly because it doesn't have an instantiator or a first value. First value can begin with null. Reduce, what are you complaining about? Not allowed, ESLint, okay, quick fix. I get that, but that's really awesome, ESLint. Is that one word? This is so ugly. Okay, cool. Undefined instead of null, sure. Defined, great. Okay, so that's not right. We need to return button. Okay, we've got the accumulator and the guess. We're going to return that. That's going to return our button. So I imagine, yeah, our button still exists there. So the accumulator is the list of classes, I think. Oh, this is not this is not going to be great. I don't think the reducer was a good idea. Maybe filter. Filter is not going to be what we want because we always want to return the button. So here we're looping over the list of letters, right? And essentially what I want to decide is whether this letter needs to have, this is so bad. I'm going to do this the right way. Okay, so let's copy this. Okay, so I've got my list of letters for my keyboard, which I don't really love that name, but what I'm going to do is, yeah, we've done all that. Let's go down here. I'm going to say const our letters, or our keyboard equals letters, map over letters. That's fine. And essentially what I want to return is going to be the key. I don't know how this is funny. The onClick I don't need. the state, and then the key is the letter, the state. I think that's it. The state, we can then derive our classes from the state. Okay, so now we need to do the logic of looping over the remaining guesses. So for each letter, I need to, what do I need to do? I need to find the word that contains that letter. So remaining guesses dot, I can use find, I can use sum. I think I'm going to use sum. And the way that sum works is it basically says, hey, do any of these, and it will exit at the first instance, do any of these guesses, or this call function, does any of this function return true? So I'm going to return that the guess includes the letter. And then what do I call this? Is used. And then I don't need to state, I can just return is used. I think that should be good. Okay, it's complaining. No, it's not complaining. Cool. Now, let me see if what I have working is what I had in mind. Canary properties undefined. Okay, I think that's probably something down here. Let's go back to just returning the button. We're just having the button in the markup. Cool. Are you still complaining about something? Yes, you're complaining about includes. Where am I? Down here. Okay, the remaining guesses. Right, that's because letters, man, this is not good naming. Letters is going to be, let's call this keyboard rows. And that's what that's going to be. Let's go back up here. Letters is now the keyboard rows. Ah, what is that? Okay. Okay, so now we're looping over each of the rows in the keyboard, which is not a letter, it is a row, right? And then each row, return row.map key. I think that's right, because then instead of a row of letters, we're going to have a row of objects. And that is going to be a letter. Let's hope that was right. Thinking about it. Row.map is not up. That's because it's a string. So we split on that string. I really need to get my type checking in place for all this stuff. Includes. Read property undefined. Reading includes. That should have been changed. Includes is not in the code anymore. Is it just not tracking that I am? No, it's okay. I read properties of undefined. Oh, I think someone's at the door. Hold on 1 second. Whoa. Oh, what are you growling at? Oh my goodness. Oh, there's someone at the door. Oh. Oh my God. Whoa. Ferocious. Yeah, you're gonna stay there. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Jeez. There you go. Jeez. Hey, Lee. Oh, that's the fun part of live streaming, I suppose. Where was I? Why? Okay. This stuff is okay. My include is not working. So let's walk through this. Keyboard rows is array of strings. As we go over that, that is a string which I'm splitting on. That is, I really don't like that it doesn't like split, but that's all right. So at this point we have an array of strings and we map over them. They're all letters. And then we are mapping over our guesses. Oh, duh, it's not remaining guesses, it should be previous guesses. Okay, so previous guesses. And I don't even know if that is the fix, because I think that's, okay. And I've got something going on there. So at this point, we should have something in our console. We have 10 items, 9 items, and 7 items. That looks right. And it looks like, according to this, Q has not been used, W has been used, that's right, E is used. Okay, cool. So now, with this keyboard, we can go down to our keyboard and we can say, the keyboard, we're going to loop over, look at that type checking, or that type definition. The keyboard, that doesn't even, oh, it's an, yeah, okay, that looks right. That's a terrible way to list it, but it's these objects, there's an array of them, and there's an array of that list. So now we have the set of the group. I'm going to call this the row. We don't need to split on that anymore because that's now an array. And then the letter, oh, you really ought to have that type definition in there. It knows, oh, it did know what this was. Yeah, anyway. So now the letter is an object and the key should be the letter.key. Letter.key, and then the class name. We're going to do a little bit of logic here and say that it is I don't know the right way to do classes in React. Vue is so much easier. So then we'll do some logic here and say if the letter dot is used, state is not good, or is used is not good, because we want to check if it's used and it's correct or if it's used and it's wrong. But for now, we'll just say if it's used. If it is used, I'm going to say background red. Otherwise, we're going to say background gray. And nope, that's not quite right. No, that is right. Okay, a little bit of logic in there. And where am I going to use class? Where did I use class instead of class name? There. Okay, cool. Let's fix that little extra character. And we have got our keyboard working and tracking the state of the letters. So I think that's all we have time for today. Made some pretty good progress with a lot of CSS stuff to just get this layout looking and working correctly, and a little bit of logic for the state of the keys. I think we're going to have to do a little bit more on the state of the keys tomorrow, because obviously the keys that are being used and are correct, what was the word again? Joke or something? The words that are correct, we want to change to green. So yeah, a little bit more logic there. We also fixed a little bit of the winning and losing logic, or typing in bad words, impossible words. We have that stuff set up, some of the cookies from yesterday. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And we're making some pretty cool progress. It's starting to look all right. So hope you're enjoying. Feel free to come back tomorrow with any questions that you have. We don't have to spend time looking at this. I'm happy to talk about any sort of web development stuff. And until then, I will see you.